The diplomatic chamber aboard the Terran vessel Horizon's Edge hummed with tension thick enough to taste. Lisa stood at the center of the circular room, her crimson war paint still fresh on her cheekbones, her plasma blade sheathed but within easy reach. Around her 23 warriors of the Krelesh clan held their positions, each one a seasoned killer who had earned their scars in the Void Wars. Their eyes, all 6 per warrior, tracked every movement of the lone human standing before them. Jackson Hayes adjusted his collar and smiled. It was the kind of smile that had gotten him through 12 first contact scenarios, though none quite like this. "Chief Lisa," he began, his voice carrying the measured cadence of someone who knew words could kill faster than weapons. "Your people have fought bravely. The Galactic Council recognizes the Krelesh, as we do not want recognition," Lisa interrupted, her translator rendering her clicks and whistles into sharp, clipped English. "We want what was promised: territory, resources, independence from the spineless bureaucrats who let the Vexari burn our colonies." Jackson nodded slowly. He'd read the reports. The Krelesh had every right to be angry. 3 of their worlds reduced to slag because the Council had deliberated for 6 months before acting. By then, it was too late for anything but revenge, and revenge was what Lisa had delivered. The Vexari Armada, once the terror of the Outer Rim, now floated as debris fields across 4 sectors. Lisa had done in 18 months what the Council couldn't do in decades. She'd become a legend, a nightmare, a symbol. Her people worshipped her, her enemies feared her. And now, the Council wanted to negotiate. That's where Jackson came in. "I understand your frustration," he said, taking a careful step forward. Several warriors tensed, their segmented hands moving toward weapons. "But there's a difference between justice and genocide. What you're planning for the Vexari homeworld, they deserve extinction." Lisa's mandibles clicked sharply, a sign of absolute conviction in Krelesh body language. "They showed no mercy. Why should we?" "Because you're better than them," Jackson replied simply. "Because the moment you become what they were, you lose everything you fought for." Lisa's forearms crossed in a gesture that clearly meant the conversation was over. "You were human. You understand warfare. Your species nearly destroyed itself 3 times before joining the stars. Do not lecture me about mercy." Jackson's smile faded. This was the moment. He'd seen it coming since he entered the room, the point where words would fail, where logic would crumble against the wall of justified rage. He had one move left, and it was the riskiest thing he'd ever attempted in his career. He closed the distance between them in 3 strides. Every weapon in the room came up. Plasma rifles hummed to life, particle blades ignited, and Jackson heard at least 4 different types of firearms being charged. Lisa's hand went to her own weapon, her warrior instincts overriding everything else. Jackson raised his hand and gently, almost tenderly, patted her head. The chamber became a vacuum of sound. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The concept was so foreign, so utterly incomprehensible, that every Krelesh brain needed a full 3 seconds to process what had just occurred. In Krelesh culture, touching another warrior's head was the ultimate declaration of dominance. It was how a superior officer claimed authority, how a parent disciplined a child, how a conqueror humiliated the conquered. It was reserved for those who had absolutely, unquestionably defeated their opponent. Lisa stared at Jackson, her 6 eyes wide with something between shock and fury. And then she understood. This human, this unarmed diplomat who had walked into a room full of the galaxy's most dangerous warriors, had just challenged her, not with weapons, not with threats, but with a gesture so audacious, so impossibly bold, that it transcended species and culture. He was saying, "You are not unbeatable. You are not beyond judgment, and I am not afraid of you." The sound that came from Lisa's throat was something between a laugh and a growl. Her warriors remained frozen, weapons still raised but fingers no longer on triggers. They understood what had happened, even if they couldn't believe it. Their chief had been challenged in the most primal way possible, and she hadn't killed the challenger. "You are insane," Lisa said finally, her voice carrying a note that might have been respect. "Probably," Jackson agreed, lowering his hand. His heart was hammering so hard he thought his ribs might crack, but he kept his expression calm. "But I'm also right. You can be the warrior who saved her people, or you can be the monster who doomed them, because if you glass that homeworld, the Council won't negotiate. They'll eliminate you, and every Krelesh colony will burn." "They wouldn't dare, they would," Jackson said quietly. "I've seen the contingency plans. Humanity volunteered to be the ones to do it. Actually, we're good at that sort of thing." Lisa's mandibles twitched. "You would exterminate my people, to prevent genocide?" "Yes." Jackson met her 6-eyed gaze with his too. That's what separates us from the Vex. We'll do terrible things, but only to stop worse things. The question is, which side of that line do you want to be on? The silence stretched. Behind Lisa, her warriors waited. The entire Krellish fleet waited. The council waited. History waited. Lisa reached up with one of her 4 hands and touched the spot where Jackson had patted her head. The gesture would be analyzed by xenanthropologists for decades. Some would call it contemplation. Others would call it something else entirely. If I agree to your terms, she said slowly, if I spare the Vexari homeworld and accept the council's jurisdiction, what do my people gain? Jackson smiled again, and this time it reached his eyes. Everything we promised: territory, resources, independence, and something else. What an ally. Humanity doesn't make many friends, Chief Lisa, but when we do, we're loyal unto death. He extended his hand, palm open, in the human gesture of peace. So what do you say? Want to make history? Lisa looked at the hand. She looked at her warriors, their weapons now lowered, their eyes questioning. She looked at Jackson, this insane human who had done the impossible, and then with 3 of her 4 hands she reached out and grasped his behind her. Weapons clattered to the floor. The war was over, and humanity had just made the most dangerous friend in the galaxy.